Hello, ladies and gentlemen. This is Snowball giving you another Snowcast, and here we've got game number 3 between Loner and MarineKingPrime. We've got MarineKingPrime down at the bottom here at the red, and up at the top we've got Loner. So this is going to be the third game in the series. We've got them each tied at 1-1 right now. So this is the coup de grace, as they would call it, the final match, the big bambino, everything else, and everything dandy. All right, so now that that's over with, we've got Loner up here just doing everything regular right now, and we've got MarineKingPrime sending out an SCV. It looks like he's going to block his ramp. So he does see there's a supply depot at the bottom. So if you guys do not know, this map is Terminus Ray. It is one of the GSL maps that they play on the tournaments, but it's not actually on the ladder. So a lot of practice for these Korean GSL maps in Korea, because they have team houses which they play these maps all the time, and these are the ones they actually use in the tournaments. And if you notice, this map is a lot bigger of a map. You can actually go here, you can go to your natural, and then to a third base with only one choke to guard all 3 bases. So this is a very much more macro-oriented map. Expect to see longer games on this, even though you can have shorter games if you have proxies and that kind of thing. But overall, in general, these GSL maps were intended to give the viewer more enjoyment, because if you notice, a lot of times at the beginning of the match there's a lot less action going on. As you can see, they're both just building a barracks and building marines. Everything's nice and normal. So in order to make the games more exciting, you can make them longer, so that the first 5 minutes of the game are just the build up, and then the rest of the match is a lot more exciting than the first 5 minutes usually are. So we've got MarineKingPrime right here. He's just going to scout out, and we've got Loner scouting out as well. He's going to go to the left. MarineKingPrime is going to go to the right. Now, the reason why they're scouting this direction is just merely because their SCVs don't take as long to walk that way. And if you look at the map right here, if Loner were to be right here and MarineKingPrime to be all the way down here, then their third bases are really close by air. So usually that means that you're not going to be able to grab your third base as easily because of Banshee pressure and that kind of thing. So being cross positions like they are, and now they both know that they're not directly close by air, the third base being close to the natural. So they are going to scout cross position, and they are going to see anyone else. And MarineKingPrime says, "Loner, you win," because apparently, even though MarineKingPrime has some amazing marine micro and that kind of thing, his macro, apparently he's not as comfortable with it. Or maybe he is. Loner's like, I don't know why. And then MarineKingPrime's like, you go, Sue. So he means that he just feels like that Loner is Gosu, but he says he's a Chobo. And go ahead and watch game number 2 if you want to know what a Chobo actually is. So he's actually calling himself a noob a little bit. So it's nice to have humble people playing StarCraft, just to say the least. Now, both of these players are extremely high-end, top-end, playing in multiple GSL tournaments. So obviously neither one is actually a noob, but they compare themselves to each other. And MarineKingPrime has a very strong micro game, and he isn't known as well for his macro and his big base play as other players are. So he may feel like he has a little bit of a disadvantage if they're cross-position on a map like this. So here we go. We've got the Marines just lining up in the front. Now, the reason why they're spaced out like this is because if a Hellion comes in, he won't be able to roast all of the Marines at once. He'll only be able to get 1 or maybe 2 of the Marines if the Marines just stay in that position. As you can see, they're all just stopped, so not a big deal. They're both actually doing that right now. The main real threat in the beginning would just be the Marines, and we can see actually MarineKingPrime has a lot of minerals going on and an expansion, so we'll see what he does with them all. He does build down a starport. It's interesting to see him have so much right now. If we look at the army size, we actually see that Loner is actually gearing up for an attack. He's going to send out his Marines just to see what's going on. We do have about equal food counts, but it looks like the earlier base, maybe an earlier base, I don't know, they both seem about the same. If we get the unit comp going down, they're pretty much equal, except for the fact that Loner has twice as many Marines as MarineKingPrime. So here comes the Marines into the base, and it looks like these Marines are going to have a hard time. He's going to have to pull back, pull some more SCVs in. He's waiting for the one barracks, and oh, he tagged a lot, of course. So he's going to have to wait until this siege tank gets out. Hopefully he'll be able to save the space. It looks like he will. The SCVs are going to come up and repair it. He's got a siege tank, and yes, he does get the repair off. The Marines are dying, so the tech as well as the expand of MarineKingPrime caused him to almost lose his expansion right there, while Loner's still sitting on barracks as he's just building his first factory now. So he's got a stream coming back. We do see a counter push coming on by MarineKingPrime. The siege tank is going out, and the production tab, we do not have siege mode going on. Now, if you are a Terran player, this is one thing I would suggest to experiment with, especially against the Protoss player. Because a lot of people are like, well, I should just always get siege mode because I've got 13 range and it's so much damage. Actually, in smaller unit compositions, a siege tank does more damage in tank mode, about twice as much damage. So just remember that siege tanks do a lot more damage when they're not in siege mode to individual targets. So it's actually very beneficial to wait off your siege mode as long as you can, because the reason why siege tanks are so powerful is because of the amount of power you get from having multiple siege tanks once they reach a critical mass. Similar to Colossus in that respect, that once you get a lot of them, you're going to be doing just fine. And then the medevac does get taken down. The Stim Marines come out for Loner, and we do have MarineKingPrime pushing out with a Marine siege tank medevac build right now. I just got caught off guard there for a second because I was like, oh, of course, MarineKingPrime has all the Marines, but he does use other units and he uses them quite well. So he just got that name from his. He was the pioneer in the TVZ matchup when he invented a way to actually get the Marines to counter Banelings by splitting them up and just sacrificing one Marine to one Baneling, essentially, because one Baneling cost more to build than a single Marine. So he just throw one Marine out at a time and do amazing splits in order to not lose his army. So that's why he got his name MarineKingPrime. And it looks like we've got a Marine sitting at the tower for Loner, and then MarineKingPrime is going to retreat with his tanks. He saved the most important part of his army. The siege tanks are very gas heavy, so he wants to keep those alive at all costs. Marines are easily replaceable, especially once you have mules going as a Terran player. If we just look at the the income tab, we can see that they're getting quite a bit of resources. We have MarineKingPrime getting 1,400. We have Loner getting 1,500-1,600. He's just building his third base right now and using a factory to scout, so we know that he's going for an MMM build. He's got his medevacs going down. Marine Marauder medevac, very popular around the beta time. Nobody knew how to counter it because it was just Marines, Marauders, and medevacs. The Marauders take away anything armored, the Marines deal with everything else, and the medevacs keep your stuff alive. So people didn't really play around with units such as siege tanks and didn't use Banshees to harass or Hellions to harass like they do. But over time, we will see more and more Hellions, I guarantee it, because Hellions are a great underused unit. Even though you do see them quite a bit, Hellions are an amazing unit, and we will be seeing more units over time. But this used to be a staple in the beta. It has gone by the wayside for the most part right now. You do still see it in TVT. The Marauders aren't used so much in TVZ unless they're making a lot of roaches, which doesn't normally happen. So a Marine Marauder medevac build, very nice against smaller tank numbers, that kind of thing. And he did not really get a scout much there. Loner tried to pop a scout in. MarineKingPrime, he has siege tech and just blew that Marine to pieces. So he does not really get to see much more. He is building a couple of sensor towers though, so he's looking to build an army to protect him against drops. He's afraid of Banshees and dropships coming in to do some damage to him. But as you can see, he's made the nice eyeballs, as I like to call it, as you get two sensor towers right by each other. You can actually see a good chunk of the map. So one thing you don't really see a lot are the sensor towers in the normal maps for Blizzard. But as these maps get bigger, we will see more and more of them, I guarantee it, because this larger map, as you can see, we do have MarineKingPrime's doing the same thing. Since Terran's army is, in general, a lot more immobile, you need to know where your opponent is, or you can be caught out of position. One second out of position, and you can be dead as a Terran player. Your tanks do 0 damage while sieging. You may see right here, MarineKingPrime is sieging up, they do no damage, and then they blow the Marines and Marauders apart. Look at that. So it looked like MarineKingPrime got the advantage on that one, just barely sieging in time, and he's going to press his advantage and take out these Marines and Marauders, most likely, as he's pushing up. We do see in the production that MarineKingPrime is making his third base. Loner already has his third, but he's going to have to back up and defend against this kind of attack. There's a lot of pressure coming down. These 5 siege tanks and a lot of Marines and medevacs to keep the Marines alive. So we do see that they're 1-1 upgrades and a 1-1 upgrade, so they are even. And once these Marines are dead, the Marauders will be able to look how fast the Marauders play siege tanks. That's what I was talking about, how Marauders do very amazing damage to siege tanks when in smaller numbers. So he does lose all of his siege tanks there, which is a big hit for MarineKingPrime. He overextended himself a little too far and ended up losing quite a big army. So it was looking really good, and MarineKingPrime was doing really well, but Loner did a great job of fending that off and keeping alive with the third base already saturated. So we will see. There is actually 1 gas at this third base, by the way. So one thing to think about in this map is that there's only 1 gas here, which usually every single one of the Blizzard maps has 2 gases at each base. So it's a little bit of a change up to have only 1 gas at that third, which I think it actually makes a lot of sense. And we do have MarineKingPrime floating his medevacs into the fray. So he knows that the lack of Thors and other things to take out the medevacs are not around. No Thors, no Vikings. So he can just float them in like that and get vision with his tanks using his medevacs. There's no fight for air control right now, except we do have a drop going down here by Loner. Now this drop will be a very good one. It will do one of 2 things. Either it'll make MarineKingPrime attack, or it'll make him fall back, because this is quite a few Marines and Marauders. Might have enough to hold it off here. It doesn't look like it. A lot of SCVs are getting pulled off, and he's doing nothing with his army. Here goes his army. His army is going to be pushing up right now as the Marines and medevacs take out the third base. So he's just trying to get in position, trying to crack this. He does stim. He sees that there's not that much, just some Marines and Marauders, and he's going to try and stim just so he can get his tanks into place and then go for the attack. And here he goes. He's going, and the siege tanks are laying on some good damage. The Marines are trying to fight, and we do have the medevacs are retreating. And it looks like that Loner got a very decisive victory on that one. And MarineKingPrime has to retreat. He is pulling back. He does still have all his medevacs, so that's very good for him. We do have +2 attack and armor going down for Loner, and which is a very good thing about the Marine Marauder medevac. You only need 1 type of upgrade to upgrade everything. He does have siege tech going now, so he is switching into getting some more siege tanks. The problem with the Marine Marauder medevac is that a 200-200 Marine Marauder medevac army is worth probably around 150 of a mech army, just because of the difference in cost. So he is aware of that, and he has to abuse the mobility of his Marine Marauder medevac. But we do see a lot of Marines and siege tanks coming in, and I don't know who's going to win this one. MarineKingPrime siege tanks are doing a good deal of damage, but the Marines are all dead. The siege tanks do go down, and it looks like MarineKingPrime taps out. There's the GG. So there you go. That's 2 extremely different ways to play the Terran versus Terran. You may say they had Marines and medevacs, but the siege tanks and the differences and upgrades and that kind of thing made it a very different matchup between both ends. Same race, different play styles, which is very interesting. One reason why I like the Terran versus Terran. Hope you guys enjoyed watching these 3 games. And this is Snowball. I will be signing out in just a second, but I say subscribe if you like this, because, well, you're my buddies and I love you all. So this is Snowball signing out.